you are new to the channel, my name is Mark, this is Toast Dragon Fantasy, and today we are doing an October wrap-up. The reason that I'm calling it an October wrap-up is because I don't really know when I read these books. I haven't been keeping track. I haven't been keeping track of what I've been reading recently. It's just been a bit of a disaster, actually. Anyway, enough shenanigans. Let's get to the books. I have 4 to talk about, and the first is this book here. It is Godblind by Anna Stephens. I am not going to go into tons of detail about this because it is going to be my next kind of full-length review, so most of my thoughts will be saved for that video. But as a kind of broad overview, it's a very, very good book. Pacing-wise, it's spot on. Character-wise, perhaps is a weakness. I think a lot of the male characters, actually, rather than the female characters, kind of merge into one. They kind of sound very similar. Not a lot of kind of defining features about them. Essentially, it follows the story of two rival kingdoms, one of which is on the brink of collapse because their king is struggling with the loss of his wife, and the other kingdom is growing in power because they have the backing of a sorcerer, I suppose, kind of someone who can commune with the gods, who were long thought to be extinct, but this person is bringing the gods back. It contains perhaps the most graphic torture scene I've ever read in a book. If you've read the book, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. So on the whole, it was good. The ending very clearly sets up for a sequel, as most fantasy books do these days. It doesn't even pretend that it's going to be a standalone. It just sets up for the second book, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So yeah, overall, decent read. I believe Anna Stephens is a debut author, and based on this, she's going to be one to watch, I would say, in the coming years. I don't know when the sequel of this book is out, but I will certainly be giving it a go. So that was Godblind by Anna Stephens. The second book that I read in the month of October was a very special one for me. It is this. It is The Core by Peter V. Brett. If you have watched any of my videos, and if you know anything about my tastes in books, you will know how important and how special this series has been to me. It was basically the series that got me back into reading. The Painted Man, maybe 5 years ago, I just spotted it on randomly, and I thought the premise sounded amazing, and yeah, the rest is history, really. This is the 5th and final book in the series. As you can see, it is monstrous. It is, I think, 900 pages, and it doesn't let down. I can't obviously say too much without giving anything away, with it being the finale of a series, but needless to say, all of the characters from previous books, they all appear, which is quite nice, actually. They all make an appearance and they all contribute to the story. If you know nothing about the demon cycle, it is effectively humans versus demons. Demons come out at night. Humans have no idea how to counter them. They pretty much cower behind wards until the coming of Arlen Bales, who finds, or who rediscovers fighting wards and takes it to an extreme level, shall we say. So that is the premise of the book, and Arlen Bales is just staggering. It's hard to put into words just how important of a character he has been to me, actually. What I would say about it is that there are an obscene amount of POVs, and some of which perhaps weren't necessary, and some, because there were so many plot lines to kind of bring together it, even with it being 900 pages. Some of the storylines still feel a little bit brief, a little bit glazed over, and some of the POVs I just didn't really care about, because they've not really been POVs in previous books, which is a little unusual for a 5th book. But that's about all I can say that's even remotely negative about it. It does exactly what it needed to do. It wraps up the series in the way that I wanted it to wrap up, and that's all I need to say about this book. Please give it a go. Please give the series a go. You will not be disappointed. The 3rd book I read on my Kindle, and it is Robert Michael's The Demon in the Trees by Ben Sanders, who is, of course, a fairly well-known booktuber. His debut novel is available on Kindle, or all ebooks, I suppose. It follows the story of this character, Robert Michaels, who is an inspector, and he's taking charge of his first case, effectively. And it is very much kind of a mystery type book. It's got thriller elements, it's got horror elements for certain. It's not a typical thriller book, because I don't really read thriller books, but it has elements of fantasy and horror and things like that in. So that's what piqued my interest, shall shall we say. Pacing-wise, it's excellent. You know, it doesn't get bogged down in kind of triviality. It gets straight to the point a lot of the time. Character-wise, Robert Michaels is a perfectly fine protagonist. He's certainly someone you can root for. The supporting cast, you know, they all do their jobs and help Robert Michaels in kind of solving this case. It's kind of like a team of inspectors or a team of, you know, cops and things like that, and chiefs and constables and all that stuff. They all contribute, and yeah, it's a very solid read. You know, you can tell that a lot of thought has gone into the story, a lot of time and effort, and yeah, it's very good. If I was to give, you know, any kind of constructive criticism towards it, I would suggest that perhaps the, you know, kind of the ultimate who done it, you know, culprit was perhaps a little predictable. Something that really did catch my attention is kind of the detail that's gone into kind of little things, little kind of innocuous moments, little everyday moments, and it kind of helps. Although it is a fantasy horror type book, it kind of grounds the story by including those kind of moments, and I really enjoyed that about the book. So that is Robert Michaels' The Demon in the Trees by Ben Sanders, available on, I imagine, any decent ebook, and I think it is in hard copy as well. You can order it in hard copy as well, so give it a go. And the fourth and final book that I've got through, I confess that I still have about 40 pages to read, so I don't know the ultimate ending to it, but it is Crimson Campaign by Bryan McClellan. This is the second book in the Powder Mage trilogy, the first being Promise of Blood, which I read in January, quite a while ago. And what I have to say about this book is whilst Promise of Blood was very good, this one has just taken it to a whole new level. It's been such a fun read. It follows three main protagonists. It follows Tamas, who is kind of the main field marshal, the main general type fella, very experienced and battle hardened. In the first book he overthrew the monarchy, and in this book he finds himself on the wrong side of enemy lines, basically trying to get back home. And it's the level of detail that has gone into the psyche of him and his men and his generals and stuff, and kind of the whole unit as kind of the whole sort of military unit. It's just been fascinating to read. The story also follows Taniel, who is the son of Tamas, and he has an interesting role because he's talented, but he's now bordering on being too talented. As the book is worn on, it's kind of clear that there is more to Taniel than originally thought. And of course, I mentioned this in a previous video, but alongside Taniel, you have a character called Capoel, who is one of my favourite book characters ever. She is a little savage girl that he picked up during the war, who is mute. She never says a word, but she has astonishing powers, and just their interactions are just so wonderful to read and so wonderful to experience. And you know, again, if you know me well, you'll know that romances are very much a make or break when it comes to me. I'm very hard to please when it comes to romance, but this I suppose romance has been done perfectly. It's just wonderful. And the third character is a character called Adamat, who is another inspector, funny enough. It's basically his main goal is to get his family back. His family has been kidnapped by a character called Lord Vetas, and it's him trying to get them back without Vetas killing them, essentially. As far as main protagonist goes, he's perhaps the weakest of the three, but I would say he's better than in the first book. I don't actually remember what he did in the first book, which suggests to me that he didn't leave much of an impression on me. That is the Crimson Campaign. It concludes with the Autumn Republic, which I will be getting. I think I'll probably get it at Christmas, actually, because whilst I do want to finish the series, there's a lot of books that I was hoping to get through before the end of the year, and I am slacking somewhat on doing that. So yes, so that is the 4 books that I read roughly in the month of October. Let me know down in the comments if you have read any of them or what you are reading right now. If you enjoyed today's video, please do not hesitate to give it a thumbs up, because that will tell me how well it has done. If you have only just discovered me today, check out some of my other videos, and if they entertain you as well, subscribe to the channel and you'll be notified when more BookTube, AuthorTube and skit type content come your way. That is all I am going to give you today. So with that being said, my name is Mark, this is Toast Dragon Fantasy, and I will hopefully see you in the next video. Goodbye.